Advanced English Arabic Learning Phrasal Verbs, Session 17. They shrugged off entreaties for special dispensation. She shrugged off the furor over her comments with her dazzling appearance. He shrugged off the criticism and carried on the same way. Many people have been shut away in psychiatric hospitals. You should close all programs before you shut a computer down. I shut the cat in until it was time to go to the vet. They shut the water off while they did the repairs. You have to shut your feelings out to deal with it. The Dodgers shut out the Giants 3-0. He's been shut out of the discussions. He told us to shut up and start working. They shut the shop up for a fortnight. She's shut herself away to revise for her exams. Don't shy away from saying what you think. Many learners shy away from using phrasal verbs. He felt that Max had betrayed him by siding with Beatrice. She sided with her friend in the argument. In a rare moment of lucidity, the senator sided with his political enemies for the good of the country. They betrayed their country and sided with the enemy. The lecturer sided with her students. He sidled up to me and whispered his name. We had to sift through thousands of files. He signed away his rights to compensation. My boss was out for the day, so I signed her letters for her. We signed in and went straight to bed. I signed in and started chatting online. I'll sign off now, but we'll write again next week. I signed off when I got my new job. My doctor signed me off for a month with back problems. The director signed off on the plans to increase sales. I had to sign on when I lost my job. I've signed on to help at the village fete. He signs on the same way every show. We've signed on 2 new teachers. He's signed on with Manchester United for the next 3 years. I've signed up as a volunteer. I signed up for their newsletter, subscribe. She's signed with ABC for the next few years. The goulash was simmering slowly in the oven. He told them to simmer down. We sing along to all the songs. I sang along when they played it on the radio. When you hear your name, sing out. Everyone sang out during the chorus. Many people applied for the job, but we will single out the best one. One newspaper was singled out for criticism. Peter read the letter twice before its meaning sank in. The warning failed to sink in. He paused a moment for his words to sink in. The fact that she's left me still hasn't really sunk in. The truth finally sank in about her death. We spent the afternoon sitting about chatting. They just sat around while the others did all the work. We sat back and waited for them to make the first mistake. I sat back and enjoyed the show. I can't sit by while they are punished wrongly. The nurse sat me down in a chair. The Queen sat for another official portrait. She sits for her neighbors when they go out. The students sat in the library as a protest against the increase in tuition fees. Her deputy's sitting in for her while she's away. She sat in on the meeting and took notes. She's sat on the finance committee from the beginning. If his girlfriend finds out, she'll get mad and sit on him. The government have been sitting on the report because it was so critical. I had to sit the game out because I was ill. We sat over dinner discussing the plans. We sat through the film. It's hard to see how their new plan sits with the promises they made. She skinned up a fat spliff. Who's going to skin up? I used to bunk off school and go into town. I used to skive off school and go into town. I used to sag off school and go into town. Work slackens off during the holiday period. Students usually begin the term well, then slack off near the end of the semester. She was always slagging him off. She often slags off other musicians to try to make herself look good. The concert was terrible and all the papers slagged the band off. Let's sleep in tomorrow morning, we won't have another chance for weeks. She went to bed to sleep off the effects of the tequila. My boss said she'd have to sleep on it when I asked her for a raise, chew on it. The au pair made tea for the friends who were sleeping over. I slept through the storm even though the wind blew some slates off the roof. A plowed field slanted up to the skyline. We slanted across to the far bank and ran before the wind. That travel magazine is totally slanted toward the ultra-rich. I sliced the cake up and handed it round to the people there. Their hopes of getting back into the game slipped away after the second goal. The year has slipped away and it is hard to believe it's over. The years slip by as you get older. He didn't follow the offer up and let it slip by. She slipped in a question about the length of time he'd been working on the assignment. He slipped in a mention of his exam results to remind us how well he did. I got out of my suit and slipped into my pajamas. She slipped the map into her pocket. Sarah slipped into a red jacket. The economy slipped into recession and shows no signs of recovery. The police let him slip through their fingers. It was very boring, so we slipped off before it finished. I slipped my shoes off when I entered. We slipped off to the pub. I slipped my coat on and rushed outside. His ability to concentrate is slipping away. The night was slipping away. I slipped away from the guided tour. In the bathroom she quickly slipped out of her clothes. The question slipped out before I'd considered the wisdom of it. We slipped out by a back door. The party was really dull, so we slipped out and went to the pub instead. They often slipped up when it came to spelling. We can't afford another slip-up. The waitress slipped up and didn't bring us what we had ordered. I slobbed about all day as I couldn't be bothered to do any work. I spent the day slobbing around at home. The garden sloped down to a stream. The forest sloped downward and away from the fortress. The tunnel sloped upward and dead-ended at a thick metal door. The men sloped off looking ashamed of themselves, slipped off. The lecture sounded really boring, so I sloped off and went to the pub, slipped off. The government is sloughing off responsibility for its failures. A snake sloughs off its old skin, shed. He is concerned to slough off the country's bad environmental image. It is a rare skin disease in which the skin sloughs off. He sloughed off the pain and continued. The car slowed down when they saw the police. It is important to slow down, rest, and eat sensibly. The negotiations were slowed up by the arguments. She picked up her drink and slugged it straight back. They went outside to slug it out. There's two guys slugging it out in the back of the bar. The companies are slugging it out in court. Federer and Nadal slugged it out for a place in the final. They slugged it out for hours but never came to an agreement. Poppy smack refers to the noise produced by smacking the lips together. Our mother's house was smack in the middle of the city. The police smashed the door down. He smashed the windscreen in. The burglars smashed up the office as there was no money to steal. The police smoked the gang out and arrested them. We will fire the roof and smoke him out. They snaffled up all the food before we got there. He snapped off a bit of chocolate from the bar and gave it to me. I was feeling depressed and knew I had to snap out of it. A strong tug on Flora's arm made her snap out of her daydream. He had taken ages, so I told him to snap to it and get it finished. All the tickets have been snapped up. Collectors snapped up every copy the day it was released. The coach became snarled up in traffic. Traffic was snarled up because of the parade. The trailing lead got snarled up in a bramble bush. The ensuing row snarled up the work of the Joint Peace Commission. My line was all snarled up after I caught that last fish. I used to snarl at anyone I disliked. I heard two dogs snarl at each other. The thieves tried to sneak out after dark. She tried to sneak up on the guard, but was seen anyway. The end. Coming next. Session 18.